Today, I want to share a little bit more about what Kundalini Yoga is, where it comes from, and why I truly believe it is one of the most powerful yogic technologies and practices available to us. So, when I was lucky enough in this lifetime to come across the teachings of Kundalini Yoga, I knew it was the practice and system that my heart had been searching for, and it brought together so many elements of the various yogic practices that I had brought into my home sadhana or home practice. And I want to share this not as a textbook definition, but as someone who has lived this practice and watched it transform my life, and so many of the things that I had carried with me through my entire life: extreme self-consciousness, embarrassment of my body, being afraid to speak up. All of these were transformed through the practice of Kundalini Yoga. And one thing I find so potent about this practice is, there's a lot of different ways we can bring in a yoga practice into our lives, right? But a lot of times, some of them require a hefty amount of time. And we get this image that this is something that needs to be practiced in an ashram or in a retreat style, which of course is great. But Kundalini Yoga is the householder practice. This is a technology and a system that's meant for householders, people that are busy, that work, that have children. So in that vein, it is very effective. The practices can be quite quick. If you only have 3 minutes, there is a kriya for that, or there is a practice for that. Of course, we have these extended meditations of 30, 40, 50, 60, 90 minutes, up to 8 hours, and those are great too. But there's an available practice for whichever time and whichever walk of life that you are in. So it's more than a yoga, it's a technology. So when we hear the word yoga, we think of physical postures, we think of stretching, maybe a flow class, and that's really beautiful as well. But Kundalini Yoga is something different, and I would describe it as less of a style of yoga and more as a technology and a complete energetic science, a spiritual journey, a path to sovereignty over our own inner power and life force. So this lineage weaves together asana, which is the physical postures, along with sound, with mantra, with breath, and meditation. And it weaves them together in very specific combinations called kriyas. Each kriya is designed with precision, like a finely tuned instrument, to create a specific outcome in our body and our mind. So when we come to a Kundalini Yoga class or we're practicing any individual kriya or meditation, we might do a kriya for the nervous system. We might do one for the heart center, or we might do one to clear subconscious blocks. Every class can be and likely will be different, even vastly different from the last. And so that's why I always say for people maybe dipping their toes into the practice that if something didn't resonate or you didn't like that practice, stick with it. There are thousands of different exercises in this lineage, all of them vastly different, and not all of them will resonate in the same way. So another thing I find extremely beautiful about this practice that might help in our contemplation around beginning is that the only real objective, the only goal, if we can even call it that, is to yoke the finite with the infinite. And so what does that mean? It means to join the human body, our finite human body, with spirit, with God, with nature, with source, however you wish to describe it. And that's what that word yoga really means. It means to yoke, to unite. And Kundalini Yoga gives us the tools to experience that union directly in our own bodies and in our own breath. And so this practice really fits into the wider spectrum of what the Lumina Sound Circle is all about. It's all about the power, at its very core, the power of sound and of frequency and of vibration to transform our lives and give us a new language through which we can think, see, and feel the world around us. At the heart of this practice lies something called Naad. Naad is the universal sound current. Naad is the vibrational harmony that sweeps us onto the connection with infinity. And this is why sound and mantra are so central to Kundalini Yoga. You may notice if you've tried a few videos already that there's likely, for some, if not all of the session, a mantra playing and likely on repeat. And the mantras we use in this practice are not simply words. We say that they are coded vibrations, and that when we repeat these sacred sounds, and especially when we chant them together in a group or with someone else, we are really engaging in something that is ancient, a sacred intelligence that resonates at a biocellular level. And I repeat that, is that when we repeat these sacred sounds, we are engaging with something ancient. These mantras are a sacred intelligence that resonates our body at a cellular level. What does this actually mean in the body, though? It means that when we chant, we are balancing the glandular system. We are regulating our nervous system. We are opening up neural pathways for deeper clarity. And the repetition of these sounds, listening to them, chanting them, the repetition cuts through our ego. It cuts through illusion. It helps us clear the subconscious mind and awakens our own inner reserves of energy. That's Kundalini Yoga, the yoga of consciousness or the yoga of energy. It awakens our own inner reserves. There's a Vedic saying as well, Nada Brahma. And this translates to all is sound, or sound is God. And this is the idea that all of creation is brought into being by frequency, by vibration. So in this practice, when we chant, we are literally tuning ourselves back into that original frequency, and we are aligning with it. And I hope, and we hope, that through the practice of Kundalini Yoga and chanting, that this is not just a poetic idea, it's something that we can feel. And maybe if you've ever sat in a room full of people chanting together, a monastery, a yoga class, we can feel that something palpably shifts in our being. We open. Another point I'd like to make about this practice, a really beautiful aspect, is that it teaches us to harvest our own energy. We don't need to go looking outside to find energy, to find this, to find that. We don't need to buy this or buy that. It's all inside. And we can think about how much of our lives we spend looking outwards for stimulation, for validation, for power, for something else to make us feel alive or whole. And Kundalini Yoga flips that completely. Once again, rather than seeking external power or stimulation, we learn to generate, sustain, and direct our own energy with intention. We learn that everything we need is already inside of us. And in these moments in the practice, when we can feel our own energy rising, our own Kundalini rising, when we feel our own power coming online, that's when sovereignty begins. We become the steward of our own consciousness and our own energy. And the beauty of this practice is that it works fast. Whether we have 3 minutes, 20 minutes, 90 minutes, or 2 hours to practice, we will feel changes if we're consistent. Consistency is the secret key. But it doesn't matter how much time we have. What matters is that we show up. We show up to our Kundalini meditations. We show up to our sound practice. Even a 3-minute meditation done every day can profoundly shift our nervous system, our clarity, our emotional landscape. And once again, this lineage in particular is not about escaping our busy everyday lives for a spiritual practice. It's about gaining the tools, the awareness, and the energy to infuse our daily life with more purpose, grace, and awareness. This practice isn't meant to take us out of our life. It just pours us more deeply into it. What does a Kundalini yoga class or meditation actually look like? We've gone through some big ideas, maybe that feel a little bit far out or not quite tangible yet. So we can get a sense of what to expect, especially if this practice is new. Every class begins by tuning in. So we chant, we've done this a few times before, the Adi mantra. This is Om Namo Gurudev Namo, which means I bow to the divine wisdom within and the guiding light around me, or I bow to the divine wisdom within and without. This mantra connects us to the golden chain, as we say, of teachers who have gone before us, and it awakens our own inner teacher. It's a way of saying, I'm here, I'm present, I'm ready to receive, I'm ready to go into my practice. If we're not just doing a single meditation or kriya, we might do a warm-up, some gentle movement to open the spine and the joints, and then we move into a kriya. Once more, a kriya is a sequence of postures, of movements, breath patterns, sometimes mantra. And once more, these are all designed with precision to create a specific energetic shift. Some kriyas can be very physical, others are more meditative. Some are done entirely seated. Some will have us moving our arms rhythmically, holding our arms in a static position. Sometimes we're holding our arms or moving our arms rhythmically for quite some time. And after the kriya, we usually move into a deep relaxation. So this is lying down and letting the effects integrate. And so you might hear me say this at the end of many of our videos, but it's a great time if we haven't worked in the relaxation to the actual kriya itself to go and find a gong track or a sound meditation and let yourself integrate. Put your headphones on, let the sound take you away and really integrate the practice. So the entire practice or kriya is designed to take us on a journey. We arrive as one version of ourselves and we leave as another. And this isn't meant to be dramatic or forceful, but it allows something to shift within us. Hopefully it can make us feel more clear or centered or strengthened. And over time, these small shifts compound to become what can be a profound transformation if we let it. So I'd like to take a moment as well to touch on the roots and the lineage, because I really believe that it's important to honor where these teachings came from. In the same way that Vedic yoga is linked to Hindu teachings, the more modern transmission of Kundalini Yoga has strong connections to the teachings of Sikhism. So as Vedic yoga is linked to Hindu teaching, Kundalini Yoga is linked to the teachings of Sikhism. And many of the mantras that we use come from the sacred text of the Sikhs. And this text is revered not really simply as a historical text at all, but it is a living guide to the teachings through mantra. It is a living guru. And once more, these teachings are by no means a religious requirement. We don't need to be Sikh or Hindu or anything to practice Kundalini Yoga. They're simply the root of the wisdom. We can think of them as the soil from which these practices have grown. You'll often hear Kundalini Yoga referred to as the yoga of awareness or the yoga of consciousness. So this isn't a practice that asks us to be flexible or to bend over backwards. It doesn't ask us necessarily to be strong, though that can come with practice. This practice doesn't care what we look like, whether we can touch our toes, what our physical abilities are. It just asks that we're present, that we're willing to meet ourselves, all of ourselves, with honesty and breath. Another mantra that we have when working through these more difficult meditations in Kundalini Yoga is it's just you and you. I love to sit with that sentence. It's just you and you. It always was, it is, and it always will be just you and you. You with your breath, you with your mantra, you with your movement, you with the relationship to your own body, to your own mortality in this way. So through the combination in this practice of breath, mantra, movement, meditation, we start to clear away the layers. These layers are conditioning, subconscious patterns, the things we've been carrying with us that aren't even ours. And underneath all that, we find something vast and quiet and infinite. And that's our own consciousness, our own awareness. The part of us that has always been whole. Why do we pair Kundalini meditation with sound? Many of you know that I pair Kundalini meditation often with alchemy crystal sound baths. I want to explain a little bit more of the science of why, the thought behind why, because they're not just two nice things stacked together, they're actually deeply connected. When we do a kriya, we breathe, we move, we chant, we're opening the body, we're clearing energy, we're activating our nervous system and our glandular system. So we can think of it in a way as that we're tuning our own instrument, our body. We have every cell, every organ in our body has its own frequency and vibrational signature. And then when we immerse ourselves in a sound bath, this is what plays or vibrates through this newly tuned instrument through our practice. So the vibrations of the crystal bowls continue what the kriya began and opened. So they move into the spaces in our body and our mind that have been opened. They can clear away what has been loosened. They might soothe what has been activated or soothe us further. The nervous system, which may have been woken up by our practice, now has permission and a space to completely surrender. And so it's really one of the most beautiful sequences I've experienced is to work with the energy actively through the practice of Kundalini Yoga, through kriya and mantra, and then to lie down and let sound do the rest. It can really take our practice to a new level. It lets the vibration wash through us, to let go of effort entirely and to simply receive. Ultimately, Kundalini Yoga in this lineage is the path of empowerment. It helps us clear subconscious blocks, awaken our energy, and stand strong in our own sovereignty and our own power. I've found that not only is it a very mystical, a very energetic experience when we tap in to ourselves and go deep, but it's also profoundly practical. It's a technology, a way to live with clarity, with purpose, and inner authority. And we don't need any experience to begin. We don't need to understand it intellectually at all. We just need to practice. It's one of those things that we understand best by experiencing it. The body tends to get it before the mind does. So I'd like to leave with this one final thought and contemplation, is that the word Kundalini itself refers to the coiled energy that rests at the base of the spine. This energy is already within us. It's always been in us. And this practice is simply the invitation to come back to ourselves, let it rise, so that we can experience a life that is full, vital, happy, and full of love.